podcast is a business meeting with a specific purpose and a specific outcome. And James has been 40 out of 43 weeks of profit. Every time he texts me pics or something goes on, my bankroll is bigger. And that is the bottom line. So, who the hell are we? And why should you listen to anything we have to say? I just told you about James, myself, having an MBA, securities license, clients that worth millions of dollars. And I've had it for decades because we give them good advice. What's the most expensive advice you can get? Bad advice. Advice that's bullshit. So, bullshit walks, money talks. And thanks, James, for making us money watching UFC fights. What are your thoughts?
100%.
First
And
thoughts as we get into it this week.
yeah, absolutely. This week, we're going to be on location. We're going to be in the UK. So we're going to have a lot of English fighters on the card, a lot of home field advantage. And of course, we'll discuss that as we go through this. But with it also being in the UK, it is going to be very early for us. Prelims start at 10, main card starts at 1 p.m. A lot of people might not end up actually watching it, but if you listen here, you can still get your picks in. And if you wake up after 10, you'll have some larger bankroll there. So even if you're not planning on watching the fights because of that time change, we've still got you covered right here.
Awesome. And never leave money on the table. So, as hot as James has been, as successful as James has been, it's very important that you listen. And I'm going to be good. I've been good about it all week. I'm going to be good about it now. I'm going to post the podcast right afterwards. Those listening to us have those your alerts on for getting the podcast. I know a lot of people do all over Spotify and Apple. You guys have your alerts on, our subscribers, and you appreciate us and we appreciate you. But remember, keep that information flowing as we've gotten great information from people, especially on college basketball last week. Some people gave me some information. We made money. We're making money on college basketball. Also, as well, after this, I'm going to have the round of 32 picks, and we'll make money there as we've been making money in the first two rounds of the NCAA tournament. So, what is the first fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah, the first fight that we're going to take a look at, we're going to take a look at Shamrock versus Alel Sawaldi. And stat wise, Sawaldi is actually the better fighter. He has larger volume and more takedown frequency than Shem. But Shem is English, so he is going to have the home
Ooh,
field advantage here.
big
I think
time.
his strength of schedule is a bit better as well. His only loss was by decision to UFC, whereas Sawaldi has been knocked out already. And with him being such fresh prospect, that's really not a great look. And Shem is better than he let on. He had a not a great debut performance, but I think he's going to be able to rally this one. We're going to go ahead and take Shamrock money line at minus 125. And then if you like to bet method of victory to be more exact, we're going to go ahead and bet Shamrock by submission at plus 300.
Plus 300. Love it. Shamrock. And one thing is funny, I was thinking about this week as a young person asked for help. But what was it that I really learned in college, right? One of the things I learned in college is that uh, folks abroad in Europe take symbolism, take politics a lot more serious than we do. So, since this is going to be broadcast in the United States and Shamrock's from England, home court advantage, I love this pick a lot. I love this pick to straight off, and it's always fun to start off watching fights and watching the card with a win. So this is a big, big fight, man. Big time. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah, up next, we've got Louis Sutherland versus Brando Parekic. And stats here, again, very close in height, weight, and age, as well as accuracy. However, Brando does have 5 times the significant strikes per minute, with a volume of 15 per minute compared to Louis' 3. Louis does have some serious power in both his hands and his legs, but he did lose his short notice UFC debut to Walter Walker by heel hook submission. Of course, in this heavyweight division, if you go up against Walter Walker, that's just going to happen to you. We can't really hold it against him too much. He had some good moments before that, but I just think the amount of power and volume Parekh has is going to be too much for him. With Brando's money line, last I checked was like minus 900. Unfortunately, we're going to have to stay away from that, but we will tip pick Brando Parekh to win by knockout for plus 100.
Knockout for plus 100 Brando. And then you got to shop around, right? Because James had a minus 900, but on my sports book, it's minus 250. So I should just bet that right away because it could be a typo. The guy was trying to type nine. He hit two, take advantage of it, and then take a screenshot. So when they try to not pay you, you're like, no, man, you got to pay me. Here's a screenshot, you know, or print it out, whatever your sportsbook thinks. So shop around. You never know. It could be a guy that just started. You know, it's mixing up the plus with the minuses. You can make a lot of money. So remember to shop around different sports books. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah, another one we've got Antonio Tricoli versus Manatas Kondrakevius. And Manatas has better stats across the board, except for reach, where he does have a slight reach disadvantage. But all 8 of his wins have come by way of finish. His only loss was to submission. And sometimes Tricoli is just a victim out there. He's just very finishable. He's not the greatest. Again, Manata's money line is too high for us to take.
Right.
The best value you can find there, his knockout is at minus 225. So that's what we're going to have to stick with here for this one.
Knockout at 225, and James telling you this guy has a soft chin, and you always look for that, right? The instinct to exploit weaknesses, man, big time when you're betting, and that's why James is 40 out of 43 weeks profit. It's for a reason. So next fight we're gonna look at, James.
Yep, just moving right along, we got Mario Pinto versus Felipe Franco, and Mario pretty much has the better stats again across the board. He does have less takedown average, but he has more submissions. So even though he's not going for as many takedowns, he's still able to find more submissions than his opponent, as well as so he should be comfortable on the ground and the feet. He's 3-0 in knockouts in Dana White's Contender Series and UFC so far. So I believe he'll be able to continue that knockout streak, whereas all 10 of Franco's wins are by finish. But he did get submitted in his Dana White's Contender Series debut and actually had to go to a lower promotion, win 2 fights in a row before finally getting his debut here in tonight. I think Mario Pinto has more experience and seemingly more skill and power. So again, we've got another large money line. I believe it was at minus 600. Can't do anything with that. And even the knockout line is still minus 200, but that's going to be our best bet here.
Minus 200, love it. What's the next fight we're gonna look at, James?
Up next, we've got Nathaniel Wood versus Lucena Kieta. And Nathaniel Wood, he's really pretty good. He's a great fighter, but he's often been finding himself on the wrong side of decisions or just in a bad octagon where his opponent is can cheat and get away with it. So he's had some pretty unfortunate losses that honestly shouldn't be losses on his career. However, Kieta has a very impressive record. He's 16-1 with 10 knockouts. However, this is his first step into the UFC. Nearly all of his fights were previously in an under promotion by the name of Octagon MMA, which haven't really heard too much of. So he could just be crushing cans out there. And Nathaniel Wood actually has a very impressive strength of
Right.
schedule. He's also an English fighter fighting at home. So I
Oh,
think we are going to go ahead and take the underdog here of Nathaniel Wood at plus 225.
plus 225. And this is another thing. As James was talking, it really dawned on me that even though sports betting, uh, it's getting into the consciousness now, and then with the predictive markets, that we're going to have some information on the predictive markets as well, especially if you follow Substack, and then with the Pantheon as well. Uh, we're going to have more information on that. But it's a more mature market. They've been doing it for 100 years. Sports betting and betting on fights is completely legal. And what James described almost seems like a setup for English fans to make money on the early card with one of their home favorites. And me looking down right now is that I'm betting it on the app right now. I'm putting $100. My $100 would make $400 putting money on Nathaniel is going to lay down the wood for us on the fight card in England. Love it, James. What's the next fight we're going to look at?
Yeah, up next, we're going to get right to it with Mason Jones versus Axel Sola. And Mason Jones, he just has a tad better stats, as well as strength of schedule. He has 2 wins in the UFC, one by knockout, whereas Sola, does have a single knockout win in the UFC, but it was over Reese McKee, so we can't really rate that one too impressively. I think this one should clearly go to Mason Jones. We're gonna go ahead and take his money line at minus 148, and I could very much see him getting a finish in the later rounds. So we could go ahead and take him to win by finish for plus 275 as well. And then keep an eye on Substack for live bets. We'll watch how it goes, but I'm feeling like this could be a third round finish. So we'll have to send what that plus number is into the chat later.
All right, perfect. And also Twitter. I'll have this. From here going forward, we're gonna have it live on Twitter. We're live on YouTube, Twitch, Kick, and Substack. But Twitter is we're going to be getting a lot of the live bets going on, and we're getting great response on Twitter for those live bets moving forward. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
All right, up next, we've got Curtis Campbell versus Danny Silva. I believe Curtis Campbell is also going to be an English fighter here, and he will be debuting in the UFC with a perfect 8-0 record. The two do have very similar stats on paper. Danny does have a slight standing advantage, whereas Curtis should have the takedown advantage here. And the main thing is Danny's strength of schedule in the UFC most recently lost to Kevin Vallejos by decision, which even though it's a loss, going to the decision with Kevin Vallejos, especially as recently, I mean, we just saw
Right.
last weekend, Kevin Vallejos just absolutely starch Josh Emmett in the first round. If you can go a full 3 rounds with Kevin Vallejos, that does mean something. So it's kind of worrying that Danny Silva may be very tough. But I do think Curtis Campbell has the skills to get it done. And also looking at Danny Silva's wins, even in his wins, there's still split decisions, which also isn't a good look. But he's proven himself very durable. So we're going to go ahead and take Curtis Campbell money line at minus 245. And because Danny Silva is so durable, the method of victory that I like the best for Curtis Campbell is decision at plus 110.
Decision at plus 110. Love that. And so, betting on the fights, let's say when the guy lays down the wood as a plus number, kind of like to bet the favorite on the next fight, right? That's just the way things go. All right. And then what's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah, up next, we're just chugging right along. We've got Roman Dolidze versus Christian Leroy Duncan. And CLD, he just has better stats across the board, excluding takedowns and submissions. And his strength of schedule is a bit worse than I remembered without looking at my notes.
Right.
But in his last few, he's lost to Hernandez by submission, decision to over Vittorio, knockout over Holland, in a decision to Anthony Smith, which we don't like that. If you're not finishing Anthony Smith, you probably don't belong in the top 10. That being said, CLD strength of schedule is very good. I mean, like he has some great wins against very good ranked opponents, and he has a lot of power himself. He can dish out knockouts, but he actually has a very great chin. He has not been knocked out yet, and he's eaten some bombs from some other opponents. So we're gonna go ahead, seal these money line at minus 425. We really don't like that. There's not really any returning value there.
No.
But we can go ahead and take his knockout at plus 130. I think that's a very live number, especially with the amount of power he has and his willingness to get in the pocket in exchange. A lot of guys are scared of the pocket. CLD is not.
Okay. Very good. Plus 110. We never go minus 250 is the highest you can go. Because what we do is we use business and financial concepts in order to predict these fights. And I'll go over a couple of them real quick. Strategy, decision science, transparency, information flow, exploitation of market inefficiencies, return to the mean, arbitrage, common sense, collaborations, law opposites, fundamental analysis, investigative journalistic techniques, arbitrage, collaboration, probability theory. Sometimes we drink on it and sometimes we sleep on it. That's just a couple of the methods we use to predict fights. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Yeah. Up next, we've got Iwo Baranowski versus Austin Lane. And if you guys didn't watch Iwo's last fight, you missed out. That's got to be some of the two greatest minutes of MMA history. I mean, it was absolutely nuts. Both guys, it was Iwo versus Ibo Aslan, and they were swinging for the fences at each other. Each of them got dropped at least twice. It was just a bloodbath back and forth, and Iwo was able to come out on top. Despite how exciting that performance was, and it was very exciting and electric, it's kind of a concerning look because Ewo shows he can get sloppy and he can be caught and rocked badly. That being said, Austin Lane, excuse me, has a chin made of glass. If Ewo can just get a fraction of the shots he landed against Ebo, he will put Austin Lane to sleep. Austin Lane's really only path to victory here is to lay and pray, try to get a takedown and stay on top the whole time. Even if he doesn't get any damage off, if he just hopes for that decision, that's really his only method to victory. And again, Ewo being minus 625 money line, we just can't do anything with that. Even if you bet on it and win, you're getting a minuscule amount of profit. That's not what we're about. So we're going to go ahead and stick with knockout here again for Ewo at minus 250, which is still right on the edge of our line.
Right at the edge of the line. Maybe something you want to stay away from. So it's if James is telling you to stay away from it and you still need to bet it, go ahead and please see a therapist. Call 1-800-GAMBLER because you should not be betting. You're not paying attention. You're not listening. You have issues. You have problems. What's the next fight we're going to look at, James?
Now, up next, we've got Michael Venom Page versus Sam Patterson. And MVP has a very specific fighting style. He kind of dances around most of the time, and it looks like he's doing something and being active, but he's basically just dancing there. And then he'll dart in, throw two, three strikes, dart back out, and just keep at distance the whole time. It works for him because sometimes if he gets the knockout in that moment when he's darting in, getting those two, three shots in, looks great on the highlight reel, looks amazing, looks like he's like that guy. But then if you really zoom out and look at the whole big picture of the entire fight, he really doesn't do a whole lot. And in some of his recent fights, there's been a lot more wrestling and grappling involved. So they do get kind of boring. And Sam Patterson, very good he's a very good grappler, wrestler, and submission artist. And he's even coming into his own with his hands as of recently. His last four fights have all ended by finish, two submissions, two knockouts. So he's getting better at knockout power. He has been knocked out twice and not by the best opponents, which do make me worry about his chin a little bit, especially against someone like MVP. That being said, I do think Sam Patterson will be able to come out on top this time. We're going to pick Sam Patterson as the underdog with a plus 160 money line. And then if you're wanting a method of victory, I like him by submission at plus 450.
Plus 450 submission. I'm going to put $100 on both. Love it, man. So now are we going main event, co-main event?
Yep, co-main event's up next.
Love it. So these fights, James is going to set the stage, going to set the table. If you have common sense, you'll take the next step and find out who the winner is. But these winners, we're going to keep them only for the Substack subscribers, the paid subscribers, and Pantheon. And then Pantheon, I got to look at the pricing, but for right now, we'll keep it at $500. So if you want James's notes for this week before the fight starts, Venmo us. We'll give you a Venmo, or we'll give you a Zelle for $500. We'll get them straight to James, and then James will send you the notes. All right, for $500. And you get the winners on Pantheon as well for the main event and the co-main event. All right, so set the stage for these last two fights, James.
Yeah, co-main event, we've got Luke Riley versus Michael Aswell. And this one's a bit tricky just because, especially Luke Riley, is a very new guy to the UFC. I believe the last fight was his debut. So already in his second UFC fight, he's getting the co-main event spot. I mean, it is a fight night, and he is an English fighter, so it makes sense they're going to want to give him that spot. And when looking at stats, Michael Aswell actually is a bit better. He has better stats than Luke Riley. The one thing is, I feel like Luke Riley has done more in less time than Michael Aswell has. Like, yeah, exactly. His last debut fight, it was worrying. He almost got fraud checked in the first round, but came back early in the second round to knock out Bogdan Grad. And that's very relevant because if we look back in time, on Michael Aswell's Contender Series debut, it was actually against that exact same fighter in Bogdan Grad, where he lost by split decision. So Luke Riley, despite having worse stats, does have a knockout win over someone that beat Michael Aswell by decision. So this one will be real interesting on to see who's better on paper and then who's better when the octagon door closes. So I'm excited for this one.
All right, very exciting, very exciting. I am as well. What's the next fight we're gonna look at, James?
Yeah, up next brings us to co-main event of the night, or excuse me, main event of the night, where we've got Mosfar Evloev versus Lerone Murphy. And stats very similar across the board. Murphy has a striking advantage, and of course, Mosfar has the wrestling grappling advantage. That's his style. I don't think Mosfar has any finishes in the UFC. I think he is a decision merchant. He's very
Wow.
good at getting you down and holding you there, but he
Right.
doesn't really do a whole lot with it. Whereas Lerone Murphy, in his recent couple, he's gotten some good finishes put together. I mean, we talk about that spinning elbow against Aaron Pico. That
Right.
was just a masterclass, and just shows there's levels to this game. Like Aaron Pico, very good Bellator guy, very good. Yeah, Bellator, not PFL. Very
Okay.
good. He was a touted prospect, and then of course his first fight in the UFC just gets smoked. And we saw that all last year. Every time someone came over from Bellator or PFL, they just got absolutely smoked. So it's hard to judge Lerone Murphy's skill off of that because obviously it was against a lesser opponent, but also Evloev hasn't fought since 2024. He hasn't, so he's been out of the ring for so long, just waiting for this. If he wins this fight, he may be next in line for the title shot, and I don't really think UFC wants to give that to him. He has all the tools he needs to win here, but I just don't know if how the decision will go because it's also important to keep in mind that Laurel Murphy is English as well. So English guy in the main
Ah,
event. I'm
right,
sure UFC would also rather have him be next in line for a title shot than most far. His style is more exciting. I mean, like I just
right,
mentioned with the spinning elbow,
right,
he's good at timing knees
right.
and all that good stuff. So most far should win this one. He's undefeated, perfect 19-0. Whereas Laurel
Okay.
Murphy is semi undefeated. He's 17-0-1. There was like a draw or a no contest. So neither one has suffered an actual loss yet. So either way this ends, one guy is going to get a loss, their first loss.
All right. So this is an obvious question, but it's hard for me to process. But elbows, I haven't watched UFC as much as you have. So elbows are legal in UFC.
Yes, most elbows are legal. Up until recently last year, 12 to 6 elbows were not legal, but 12 to
Okay.
6 elbows are now legal again. So you can do 12 to 6 elbows.
Yeah, because I remember when I was, your age, right, living in the hood, coming up, the way you won street fights were with knees and elbows.
Uh,
You would think that crazy street fighting or bar fighting would be cleaned up in the USF, but that's where the USF came from, right? The bad man contest from the underground, where they used to have UFC used to be people fighting in their backyard. It used to be crazy stuff. So very exciting. We're back at it. 40 out of 43 weeks, a profit, a phenomenal record. 80%. Remember, I just talked about probability theory. Probability theory, 80% is the highest level of probability of anything. James is way above that. So, final thoughts, James. London, it's always exciting. All those drinking places are very exciting to watch fights as you're drinking yourself. Fights start early, so it justifies drinking before noon. So, what are your final thoughts, James?
Exactly. Final thoughts. I mean, pretty much just took the words out of my mouth. It's going to be an early day tomorrow. Going to have to set an alarm to make sure I'm up in time to watch all these fights and take some notes. Um, See if I can get through the early prelims without cracking open any brute beers. But for sure, by the time 1 o'clock rolls around and that main card is on, no plans for the rest of the day. We're just watching fights. We're taking notes. We're making
Big
money.
Exactly. March Madness, we've been making money, so look at our feeds because they are profit centers. And NCAA tournament is all about day drinking, and now the fights. They probably did it on purpose. Started the fights early because people are day drinking as well on Saturday. So, uh, if you want to be independently wealthy, what you do is you take each of James's fights individually, equal weighted, and your money will be saved. But you don't have to give it now, but I think we'll give it out, especially on Twitter. Twitter, we had a great response for this when we did it. The degenerate sleeping in your mom's basement, degenerate parlay. We'll get that out. Even though it's not business, it is fun. But again, if you take each one of James's bet individually, equal weighted, and you bet them. Same thing with me with college basketball. As you get into the NBA playoffs, same thing. You take each bet, you bet it individually, and at the end, your money will be saved. This is the SBC Podcast Network.